Welcome to the Eclipse OpenJ9 community call for March 17th. This meeting is being recorded, so if you don't want to be recorded, please drop off now. And as we go through, please add yourself to the attendee list just so we have an idea of who's been joining. Okay, and then we'll pause here for people to add things to the agenda. If there's anything you'd like to add, any questions, any that we can handle right up front, let's do that now. And otherwise, feel free to add things into the any other business section at the end of the meeting. So I'll pause in case there's any questions. Right. We don't have a lightning talk scheduled for this week, but it would be good to get some more of these scheduled in the near future. So if someone has a topic they want to talk about, please reach out to me or add yourself into the agenda, and we'll just get these scheduled as we go. So we'll take a quick look at the new user issues that have come in since the last of these calls, just to make sure that everything's getting the appropriate level of attention. See that there's a issue that was raised around the JVM hanging when it was issued a kill-quit. Looks like we have some discussion going on there, so that's probably in hand at this point. There's also a crash on AIX with 024.
Yeah, that's being investigated. The main discussion's happening in the adopt issue, not in this issue.
Right, and then the others here are older issues. Is there anything in this list that somebody feels needs some attention here? Jump back to the agenda. See, there's a longer discussion around the help wanted and beginner issues. I believe there was an agreement to update the tag to good first issue. Pete or Adam, did that?
That did happen. I asked in the committers channel if anybody objected, and nobody did. I got a lot of thumbs up. So I went ahead and renamed to good first issue, and then Adam took some other actions which he can describe. If he's on.
I was going to say, I don't see Adam, so.
Well, he did rate some status there, so.
Looks like he's working on getting this updated so it's listed on sites that are posting good first issues. So thanks, Adam, for taking the initiative on that. And I guess we'll take a look at the adopt downloads. Take a look at the OpenJ9 ones, we see a big uptick in downloads there, which is good to see. When I looked at this earlier, we're seeing that a lot of our downloads are either Java 8, Java 11, and Java 11 is actually representing the majority of our downloads right now. We have just those first few for 16, and we're in the low thousands for 15 and 14 as well. Not surprising seeing the majority of downloads being on 11, the last major LTS. Is there any other stats around downloads people want to call out?
I just want to point out that 11 is the predominant download from the website. We learned this from looking at website stats, that almost over 80% of users choose that because we have that as the default setting.
Do you think the default is what drives that choice?
Almost certain. We've also seen that in terms of the number of adopt installs out there in the universe, we're driving 11. 8 is a close second for us, but we think it's related to the default. We saw a change when we switched from 8 to 11 as the default choice on the website.
That's interesting.
Yeah, very.
It always makes me wonder about running the A/B test to see if, picking something else as the default, how many people
Yeah.
would switch to 11.
Yeah.
All right, then let's move to the releases we have. We have the 026 release, which is the next quarterly update in April coming up. I see that we've done the code split and started the first set of builds for that. So if we take a look at what's in that milestone, there are still 28 open items here. So these are all things that'll need to be double delivered if they want to make the release. And looking at this, there's probably things that we're going to move out. If I look at some of the items that have been moving forward for quite some time, the hot thread local access, for example, likely not going to be addressed in this time frame. So it would be good to do a grooming pass over this, move out anything that we don't expect to address in this release, or things we don't see likely to make it into this release, or are too risky to double deliver. Ask the leads in various areas to do a pass through this and remove any items that aren't going to make the release. Is there anything on this list that should be called out or needs special attention today? And then the 0.25 release of Java 16, which GA'd on March 16th, so yesterday. Thank you to everybody who was involved in that, in closing out the items, in tracking the builds, getting everything tagged, all the triage work that goes into it. It's a big job to get a build out, and so a big thanks to everybody for getting that release out and on time. It's a great step for us. Is there anything on the Java 16 release that needs discussion?
No, I think we can remove that from the agenda. Done.
Excellent. I just wanted to ask about the Docker builds. Did that get addressed?
Apparently, we were never creating large heap Docker builds, so there was nothing to remove. Okay. The issue got closed.
Perfect. Just checking if there's anything in the CMake details that we need.
So there are some CMake changes. We now support Windows 32, but we didn't support it for the Java 16 0.25 release. And the performance for mixed refs on Java 8 is still outstanding. Just maybe move that stuff forward to the 0.26 release.
So I will just that out of here as part of the 0.26 release then. All right.
So that just to complete, the Windows 32 CMake support was completed. It was set as the default, and that change was propagated to the 0.26 stream.
It's good to hear. You mentioned the performance issues on 8 are still present. Is there any update on the investigations into that?
Well, I'll ask Sharon if she has any updates there.
Yep, so the perf team is just setting up machines with the appropriate profiling tooling, so just waiting on getting the profiles before more investigation can be done.
Thanks, Sharon. And I guess we can move to the general business. Shelley, I see you're on, probably furiously typing to update this.
Yeah, trying to type quickly there. Yeah, so you've already talked about the JDK 16 release. That was special thanks to Simon, Andrew, and Stuart for guiding that through for both implementations. And also thanks to the OpenJ9 team for the suggestion of the new release plan that allowed us to release within a few hours of that tag. That's going to work well for us, I think, for the new versions as they come online. We'll continue with that. Note on the transition to Eclipse Foundation. Yesterday, we've silently shifted 5 of the 7 test repos to Adoptium, and that seems to work well, relying on the fact that GitHub does a very good job of redirecting. So even if you currently have a fork of the old repos, you can work in that fork, and when you push, it's actually going to push the changes to, it'll actually push the changes to the new repo, even though some of the repos had to be renamed. So note on repos that started with OpenJDK dash, we're asked to remove that prefix. So for test repos, we've replaced it with aqua dash. And for Tamarin repos, I think the only time we reference that OpenJDK moniker is in the mirror repos, because that's truly what's happening. And finally, we've transferred social media assets to Eclipse Foundation. The website and blog have been lifted up and are running under Adoptium, but we're also going to keep the Adopt OpenJDK website running because we want to make sure that consumers have us can still find builds. So there will actually be 2 websites running for quite a long time to allow people to still have an option and to be able to find binaries. And that's all I have.
Thanks, Shelley. Anyone have questions? The Adopt update? And we'll move to the infrastructure update. I don't see Adam on the call. So it looks like the issue with running out of space issue's been closed, and it sounds like there's a fix here.
The deal was that Eclipse would delete all the workspaces every time they upgraded Jenkins. But anyways, we've deleted a bunch of obsolete stuff, and we now have an automated job where we could enter a pattern and delete obsolete stuff that way. Before it was a manual process.
Good to hear. I see that we've moved to 30 days of history on the Artifactory.
Yeah, our space came down. I think we must have had a certain period of time where we were using more space and we never really identified what it was, but our space usage as of last night has come down to 77%. Probably we could go back up to 35 days.
Are we running into issues with the 30-day limit? I don't have a strong opinion either way, so.
I don't know. That's hard to quantify. It just means that if you've reported an issue and somebody goes looking after 30 days, they're not going to find any artifacts or the VM build for the issue reproduced. They won't, the diagnostic files will be gone, etc. So 35 days just gives us those 5 extra days.
I'll add a comment in here and we'll follow up with Adam.
Yeah, obviously we want the largest number of days that we can accommodate with the space we have available. So that seemed to be 35 days before, but then we were getting very close to 100% at one point. But that may have been due to switching over to CMake everywhere and mixed refs. We're not really sure why the increase in space happened, but I think we've progressed far enough that all those old artifacts are now gone.
Okay, it's good to hear. Follow up with Adam and we'll see if we can get that bumped back up to 35 days. All right. In the any other business, just checking if Babneed is on. Do you have an update around the method handle support?
Hey Dan, yes, we are still looking into fixing failures. A lot of certification failures were seen, and the priority has been given to those failures which are seen many number of times. And then we are going down the list to the failures which are seen the least number of times. And I think we have triaged 70% of those failures. And we have also opened PRs with fixes for some of those failures. And as the weeks go by, we will look into the remaining failures. And this sums up the update for OpenJDK method handles. Back to you, Dan.
Thanks. Feel free to ping me directly too for reviews on that, especially if I seem not to be noticing them, just if I lose it in all the GitHub traffic. Feel free to ping me on Slack for it too.
Understood.
We've talked about CMake, except for sort of the two issues around the ZOS support and cross-compiling. Devin, seeing if Devin's on the call. I don't see Devin. So I guess we'll circle back to those next time.
Just, I noticed after we finished talking that our last space update for Jenkins usage was actually on Monday. We haven't had anything for yesterday or today, so maybe there's something going wrong with our job that tracks the usage. So I pinged Adam to take a look.
Pete. Marius, is there an update on the Helm and operator efforts? Marius, I see that you're off mute, but seems to be the regular Blue Jeans issue of losing your audio. So may have to do the usual dance of dropping and coming back. Just if you're able to do that, we'll move on and we'll circle back.
I'm back. Can you hear me now?
Yes, again.
I have to do this every single time. Okay, so yes, we have now the release notes at the eclipse.org website as well for the Helm chart for release 0.24. And once we have at the Docker Hub, we need to have the build for 0.25. So once that is available, we'll update the release for 0.25 as well. And the blog on Helm chart is up for reviews. Just a reminder for everybody. That's all.
Thanks, Marius. Reminder about the next microjit meeting.
It's next Thursday, not this week, next week.
Yep. Thanks, Marius. A new topic for me, the micrometer community has been looking at adding support for OpenJ9's GC policies into the metrics that they collect. And so I've taken a first crack at pulling together that the right GC policy names and the right pool names for data that they're collecting out of the MX beans that we provide. I'm just looking for some validation from the GC team, so Dimitri or Alex or Lynn or somebody who's familiar with this to just take a look at what I've pulled together and make sure it makes sense in the context of of how all our GC policies work, so I can help get that opened and get OpenJ9 supported by Micrometer, better supported by Micrometer.
Yeah, I looked briefly. Looks okay. Some small maybe details because like balance partial potentially by not necessarily copy forward, but mark sweep. But except this, I don't know enough like of application part of this thing. But so far looks good for me.
Okay. Thanks, Dimitri. So it's probably sufficient for me to move forward on that. Then I will try and get that pull request opened with the Micrometer community this week and see where we get to from there. So, right. So then the other issue on the list is rescheduling this call. And I know this was discussed during the last call. We also created a poll to sort of track when the most people would be available. So when I look at that, the one that stands out as having the most availability is Tuesdays at 10. Though I'm a little concerned, Pete, that you would not be able to make that.
Yeah, I don't think I can free up that spot.
Okay. So it would help if more of the people on this call took a few minutes and filled in their availability as well.
What I could do is I'm free at 10:30, and if the meeting that's running between 10 and 10, or it's actually from 9:30 to 10:30, if it finishes early, then I could jump on to the OpenJ9 call.
Yeah, that's Tony's Open Java call, right?
That's right.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat.
I don't think it regularly goes to 10:30.
Yeah, you're right.
But even if it does, I've still got the half an hour. Of course, looking at the time now, we've finished the whole meeting within half an hour, I think, so pretty much.
Yeah, given the general availability in that time slot, I'm wondering if maybe we shift the call back to 10:30, because the majority of these calls do end in about half an hour.
Yeah, and the current schedule for this call is for 30 minutes. We only run over it for lightning talks typically, right?
So there is another call that's going to be at 11. This is confusing because the time zone changes. But right now there's another call at 12, but it's going to shift to 11 on the 30th. So if we did make it from 10:30 to 11, there might be a hard stop at 11 for some people.
Joys of trying to balance multiple calendars.
Yeah, it was just a weird time to do this because we just changed time zones, and the UK doesn't change until end of March, and then India doesn't change at all, but they sometimes shift their call times because we've gone into daylight savings, but that hasn't necessarily happened yet.
So I'm wondering then, based on the time zone difficulties, is it better to delay this until April when everybody's done their DST change? Other meetings have stopped moving around.
Yeah, it might be easier for people to see when they have free slots, but if people have already answered when they are free and looked ahead, their answers may already be accurate.
For Thursday, 11 to 12, we do have GCT weekly meeting, but we could reschedule it if it changed something. I see Daryl look like it's not capable to do it.
So that would change, your availability and Cedric's likely as well.
Right.
What we didn't get is any input from Andrew, Leonard, or Simon.
Yeah, why don't I ping them offline to see if we can get a few more updates into this poll before we make a final decision on this.
Sounds good.
Is there anything else that we need to discuss today?
Not a discussion item, but I know some thanks were made earlier, and I just wanted to thank Sue for getting all the OpenJ9 docs completed and published.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, I'll second that. Thank you, Sue. It's a big job and very much appreciated. Especially as, in many ways, the public face of what people see when they're trying to figure things out with OpenJ9. So that's
Well,
very
don't
much
forget,
appreciated.
I kind of followed up the tail end of it, but thanks go to Peter Hayward as well for all the work he did earlier on in the.
Yeah, and I'll say a note is everything is, I think all the teams have managed to push up their deliveries so things were available ahead of time. It's fantastic, including the docs.
Is there anything else for today, or should we call it and pick things up again next week?
Sounds good. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.